Greetings, I'm Dike Rostant. Welcome to In Depth, looking at the need to integrate advances in technology along with our potential as a people. Government, through the Ministry of Digital Transformation, has come up with a strategy towards that transformation. Now, we are going in depth on stakeholders, resources, and realistic goals with National Chief Digital Officer Wendell Mitchell and Deputy National Chief Digital Officer at the Ministry of Digital Transformation, Denyse White. Welcome to you both. I want to start off with you, please, Mr. Mitchell. There's a lot of trending words we hear about digitization, which is distinct to digitalization. What is digital transformation, Mr. Mitchell, and why should we focus on this?
Thank you, Dike. But digital transformation, it's really about a radical change in the way we do business. And the main ways you go about doing it is you may improve your customer experience, you may improve your efficiency, or you may open up new products, services, revenue streams. And I like to refer to it as technology-enabled transformation of the operating model or the way you do business. Like you see how Amazon, Uber, Airbnb, and these places, they change the shape of the way we imagine the business. So digital transformation is that technology-enabled transformation of your business model and customer experience.
And I really like that technology-enabled transformation. But with that in mind, I want to ask you, please, Ms. White, the mandate and vision of the ministry itself, the Ministry of Digital Transformation, what is that?
Well, it's really about providing a new way of doing things. And when we look at a new way, it's a new way of both delivering goods and services from the government point of view. The Ministry of Digital Transformation is really about enabling technology-driven change throughout government. And we know that technology isn't new, but now we're combining the concepts of digital and transformation. So it's technology and it's also change. And it's not just changing how we do things, but really impact focused on the what is being done. So you could put technology onto a bad process, and all you do is speed up that bad process. So when we think about service delivery and having citizen satisfaction, it's understanding the what happens at the end and focusing on that what to put the technology in there to make it better.
And does that, Mr. Mitchell, does that service delivery change a little bit with this switch or this split rather from public admin, or how does this strategy come into place with that move?
With the switch from public admin, it allows a focus, because at the end of the day, sometimes it's hard to change the engine in the plane when you're also driving the plane. So it allows a ministry that is stepping off the pace and is not driving the plane. So we have time to take a perspective, a broader perspective, and change, because we don't have to be outing fires day to day.
And I want to look at words a little bit, specific words, strategy. What the word strategy, is that a deliberate use of that word, and where does it come into play, if so?
So yes, so strategy is a deliberate use of the word, because what happens is that if you look at we have a vision, and the strategy is the plan to achieve, or how the what. The vision is the why, and the strategy is the what. So for instance, if I wanted to have a house or own a house, I have to have a strategy for acquiring that house. I need to understand, how am I going to get the money? Am I going to beg, borrow, save? Well, hopefully not steal. And, how am I going to get good value? Am I going to buy? Am I going to lease to own? What is it? Do I rent and get my furniture? So all of those things are strategies. And if you don't have a strategy, you may find yourself just spending years and years just watching HGTV and dreaming and hoping you have a house. So the strategy is the tactics to get there.
is there any existing legislation that will help this strategy, help this structure? What are some of the things that the ministry is building on to take this transformation forward?
Well, when we look at digital transformation initiatives, we tend to use this PPT model, which is people. So who is doing it and what roles do they need to fill? We look at the process, how it's being done. We also look at the technology, and technology here refers to tools, whatever those tools are. And you touched on a very important part of the building blocks that we also need to look at, which is the legislation, the legislation, the regulatory framework, the governance of how this is to be done. Because when we think of the role of government in terms of public policy, the government is here to provide a structure, a way in which all of the elements are looked at holistically to, as we think about strategizing, move everyone in the national community forward with the same vision in mind and having that same strategy on the table. The legislation is critical because we need to have protection. When we think about technology, we think about data. And when we think about data, people are very sensitive these days about data and that data acquisition and the reuse of data. And data is all around us. I mean, we put in things on Facebook every day. We're out there swiping cards at massy stores to get points, but that is all data collection. And the government is really set on providing that legislative framework to ensure that citizens' fundamental rights remain protected and that they feel safe and secure about engaging in this new way of doing things.
And it's funny because you touch on so many points, Ms. White. One, the way that you and Mr. Mitchell have spoken about some things, it makes me think as though I'm speaking with Faris Al-Rawi a little bit. One, talking about plant, process, and machinery. Two, also talking about flying the plane while you're building it. But I really like the points that you talk about being content creators, putting things onto Facebook and other digital platforms. There's some persons who say that Netflix is not necessarily just a movie or streaming service, is also taking in a lot of data. But with that in mind, though, in the last 2 minutes that we have, what is the process of this transformation, Mr. Mitchell? Is it top down, you all will do this? Is it that we all bear some sort of burden in terms of what the strategy will look like? What is the process leading to that transformation?
Well, the process of the transformation is, we coin a frame co-creation. So we encourage persons to bring their ideas and advice to the table and let us know what we can do in enabling that or bringing it to fruition. But we also want persons to have skin in the game. Traditionally, persons want to take a consultant approach. They don't have any risk in it, and therefore they live to fight another day. And it's for the government to figure out the how, the what, the why, the with what, and putting all the resources in place. But if we co-create, that means you bring your idea, you tell us what we need, we enable it, whether it's legislation, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's access to information in a secure manner. And we empower you to go out there in a partnership with us to reimagine your business, reimagine new goods and services, because we have limited resources to execute everything. At the end of the day, it's akin to, rather than you waiting for us to build your whole house and you come and move into it and then say, this is not how I wanted it. It is us giving you the materials and you build it the way you want it. It's like a buffet.
And I think especially as if something is not mandated that you have to do it, that skin in the game is so important, so you have ownership of the process. But we continue this very necessary conversation. When we return, we're talking about digital transformation. Stay with us, we'll return with more. Welcome back. We are going in depth on the strategy towards digital transformation. We are doing so with Wendell Mitchell and Denyse White of the Ministry of Digital Transformation. And Ms. White, I wanted to actually go back to something that you started speaking about in the first half, please. security of information. What are some of the things that are being plugged into the process at this point to help ensure safety of stakeholders?
Well, when we think about cybersecurity, and cybersecurity is one of those buzz terms that we hear all over now because of the highlights of different activities and incidents that have happened. We have to think of it in terms of safeguards, but we also have to think of it in terms of behaviors. So you could have the biggest house with the best burglar-proofing and alarm system, but if you forget to put it on, then it does not protect you. So we have to look, and we are looking at the government level of building in cybersecurity from the beginning of all the projects that we are undertaking. In fact, we have an agreement with the government of Estonia. And one of the elements of that is bolstering the cybersecurity apparatus of what we do in government. But another part of it really looks at those behavioral elements and building the awareness, because a lot of persons engage in online activity. They engage in doing things, putting information where it shouldn't be put. And that is largely because they are not aware of the risks. So it's not that we're saying don't do it, but you have to understand that there are risks involved. And we want to lessen the incidence of people coming to the fore saying, oh no, my bank account was wiped out. Oh no, somebody created a false profile of me somewhere and pretended to be who I am not. And really ensuring that behaviors are also brought to the fore when it comes to treating with issues of security.
I really like that analogy of the lock and using the lock. But Mr. Mitchell, sometimes you might get a very, very fancy lock, a few combinations well, and then we're not sure how to use it. So we always call in the service technician. So it's part of the it's part of that transformation, it's part of the process, part of the focal point, making sure that those who are using the system, the technology, the online services, can do so capably, comfortably, and so there's a capacity, a level of capacity and competence that's built within it.
Well, I would say that you have to take a multi-pronged approach, because you have to understand that there are beginners, persons who may be technology agnostic. And if you make the technology overly simplified and dumbed down, then the real tech savvy, the youths will be like, look, I can't really get everything that I want. So it's almost as if you have to, when you're playing an online game, you ask you, are you level 1, level 2, level 3? So you have to allow people to do it their way, to choose their level, their comfort level, and it will allow them a certain depth of services. So it may mean you may start something online, but you may have to fulfill it elsewhere. It may mean, in the case of maybe the elderly, it may mean that there's a business opportunity for persons to do advocacy services to assist them with some of the more complicated parts of the transactions. But just as how you have with persons getting their pension and so on, they have to sign, and there's certain things that you have to put in place to avoid fraud and those sort of things. So we have that role, and then on the other end, you have a full self-service model for the tech-savvy persons. But again, part of one of the pillars is the digital society, and that pillar has a combination of the training, hands-on training, because it's not logical. You may go into a center and actually have someone help you walk through filling out your taxes, whatever it may be. And the other element of it is making technology ubiquitous, accessible, and not discriminatory in terms of I have to have this amount of money to be able to pay for a laptop or what have you.
How I wanted to talk about Tanti and Uncle, Mr. Mitchell, and dealing with the pension. I remember Minister Cox, I believe, was trying to get more people, even banks, trying to get people to sign on so that things go directly to their account, so they don't need to walk in, they don't need to get the check and walk in. But I don't trust them to, So in terms of making sure that this process focuses on the individual, so the person is the subject, as opposed to being the object. So if they don't get in, they have to fit in. How does that round out the thought process of what it is happening now?
So one of the things when you deal with the newer technology now, rather than functionally design the systems, you design them from a customer experience perspective. So you may develop personas. You may have Tanty Terry, Uncle Urban, then you might have Savvy Sandy and Techie Teddy. And therefore, what you're doing is the user interface is multifaceted based on the persona. So you have to have multifaceted user interfaces now.
And with regard to those who want to contribute to the strategy, Ms. White, how can they reach out? Because I see that you just signed MOU with White looking to take things forward and build capacity. So people who want to get on board, people who want to engage and say, I think these are some of the things that should be happening, or I have capacity, I want to share. How do they do that?
Well, we are going at it in terms of a very multi-pronged approach. And the mantra is we are meeting people where they are, recognizing that there are people who are very digitally enabled and would want to contribute via email or drop onto our social media. And let me plug the email here. It's transformtt@mdt.gov.tt. All right. So you can get on there and send us a comment, and let us know what you think. What does digital transformation mean to you? But we're also looking to explore outreach into the communities at the community level. The ministry is actively engaging in rolling out these community ICT access centers. You would have seen in the news lately, Access TT. So we'd have just launched one in Cayman in St. Joseph. We had one launched recently in Belmont. We have them, scattered throughout the country with the aim of getting into the pockets where access is not as easy as in urban developed areas, right? So it is using the staff who come from the community to get the inputs from their community in terms of what does digital transformation mean to me? How does it add value to my life? Here is what I want to see happen in this plan. So we are reaching out, talking, walking, beating the pavements as necessary, but we also have the digital channels where people can contribute to what we're doing and have their inputs recorded via that format as well.
Thank you. And in the last minute, Mr. Mitchell, I want to give you closing words as well as possible timelines that you're looking for some of these things to roll out. Thank you.
So the closing words, we are in the process of developing the strategy, and really we want to make sure we have the right strategy before we move forward. So it's a call for all hands on deck, collaborate, any ideas, there are no bad ideas. We want to put everything into the pool. So when we start to co-create, we have everything on the table and we don't disenfranchise anyone, and persons feel fully empowered. So we welcome persons to contact us, the website, the email, the hotline, and send us. We'll have someone reach out to you and we can get all ideas and all capabilities in the well of knowledge.
National Chief Digital Officer Wendell Mitchell, Deputy National Chief Officer Denyse White, we want to thank you so much. And on behalf of the entire TTT News team, I'm Dike Rostant. This has been In Depth. Thank you for joining us.